Dr. Bell mentioned earlier that it's not necessarily the presence of trauma, but it's the absence of something positive. Because when we have something strong in our life, when we have that relationship, that parent, that belief in self, we can get through just about anything that comes our way. But when protective factors have been systematically pulled from our community, it creates historical trauma. It creates patterns that go on for generations and generations and generations. And so what we need in that space are those protective factors, and part of those protective factors are examples. So what we have for you today are some amazing examples in our community of people that have overcome, have been resilient, have moved forward on their own healing journey, and have used what they've learned and their strengths to help other people to do the same. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves quickly by saying their superpower in addressing historical trauma.
Hello? Okay. Hi. I'm Giovanna Askew. I'm a case manager at ABLE. And my superpower with addressing my trauma is not acting like it didn't happen, but acknowledging it and working to move forward.
Okay. I'm Sir Taylor, one of the original members of the Jesse White Tumler team, founder of the Example Setters. Everyone please follow us on Example Setters. Youth Poetry, Facebook, Example Setters, Instagram. My superpower is being able to help others bring out the best in everyone else. You know, I think that's one of my superpowers. I'm able to help you see where you're at and develop you to a resilient point. So that's my superpower.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carlil Pittman. I am the co-founder of Good Kids Mad City. I believe that my superpower would be the power of being relatable and transparent. I think a lot of times in our communities, different ones we come from, young people a lot of times are not treated as the situations that they're living in, but as not being decision makers and not being able to be recognized as change agents of themselves. So I think for me, it's giving young people that platform to feel empowered, to take lead, to take change, and understand the conditions of the communities that we're in and why they're happening.
All right, you can see why we have these three up here now. So unfortunately, we have limited time today. So we're going to pose a question to just one, Giovanna, today, since you've gotten to hear from Sir Taylor, and then Carlisle is running a workshop. So you'll get to hear even more from him. So we're going to focus our efforts and focus our time on Giovanna, starting out. So my question for you, Giovanna, to start us off is, what are the effects of historical trauma? How has historical trauma manifested in your life, and how have you overcome and healed?
Okay. Hello. My historical trauma is I was molested by a family member very early, and it's a generational curse. You can't hear? Okay. Hello? Better? Okay, good. I was molested by a family member early at 9 years old, and it's a generational thing because most of the women on both sides of my family were molested by someone in our family, and I held on to it very long. I didn't say anything until I was about 29. I said it to my mom, and talking about it has been able to help me get over it. Like before then, I was extremely closed. I still have a problem with authority. Like I don't like being told what to do much from someone in an authority position over me because of the person that it was that did it. So I kind of have trust issues with people who have position of power over me, but I'm working on it. I talk to therapists, I talk to my granny, my mom, anybody who will listen who helped me understand that like what I feel is valid and nothing that happened to me was because of me. It was something that that person was going through. So I'm actually in the process of trying to forgive. Like I don't forgive him, but I understand why, because talking to his mom and his siblings, I know that he himself was molested too. So I understand more. And I'm not really at a point to forgive him, but I'm more understanding of it.
So I guess it's fair to say that hurt people hurt people. You're saying that hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
You understand it? Well, it's not right. Well, they probably had issues to address themselves. They were very hurt. But they imposed hurt on them. Is it right?
So we have, what's your name?
Neela.
Neela. Neela saying the wisdom that hurt people hurt people. And when somebody goes through trauma, if that's not healed, a lot of times that comes out on others. So since we have about 10 more minutes, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm Kalila. I'm with North Lawndale Restorative Justice Community Court. Just to kind of input on what you said, first I just want to say, you are so brave to even sit here and say it.
So
you know,
I'm shaking.
and it's like, and I heard you say you don't forgive. Now, being a woman of God, not sure where you are with your faith, but I believe you started your healing process. You're talking to people. That's a step. You confessed it. You committed, hey, this is what happened to me, and I'm willing to do something to change how I overcome the situation. But I feel the best thing what's going to help you to fully heal is forgiving. Mm-hmm. Once you forgive him, you forgive yourself, so you can move on. Amen.
Amen.
I'm working on it. That's all I got.
Yeah. Very brave. Just want to reiterate that. Very brave. Thank you.
Listen, I just want to piggyback off what you just said. I've had experience to happen to me while I was living in Cabrini. And I'm just talking about the full forgiveness. And you know, I wasn't able to rise up and start to live my life and do the things that I was placed on this earth to do until I forgave everyone. You know, if you don't know about the buildings, if you're from the whites, you stay out of the what? Reds. If you're from the reds, you stay out of the what? Whites. You either run in with this, you run that. People a lot of times used to tell me, oh, well, you know, based being in Cabrini Green, I know you was plugged with this, you was in this gang, you joined this gang. I never joined a gang. I was raised into what I was born into that. If I was from that building, then you was that, period, point what? Blank. Wasn't nothing to talk about. My mother once came to me and said, man, how did you, I said, no. I didn't know nothing about this. Each and every day, this was my reality when I walked outside of my door. This is what I was. Not because I said it, and by being a Jesse White tumbler, you saw us, we had Coca-Cola, Jewels, all that. That's what it represented. I really, when I was in 8th grade, I never was plugged and never claimed anything until I was beaten into a coma, missed my 8th grade. I stayed in a coma for 3 months in the hospital. These are not even my teeth. Wired all up. My jaw's wired up. 3 months beaten because I walked on, because they decided, you know what? I used to go to every building. I can go to every building. And it came a certain age, they looked at me and they said, what? You know what? You're too old to come over here to somebody. And one of the guys told them, because of his ignorance of not knowing that, man, I want the same, my mother wants the same things that your mother wants. Us to live a peaceful, healthy life. It's the best we got right now. And one of the older guys told him, man, y'all got to whoop him. Y'all gotta whoop him because this the same guy gonna blow at y'all and gonna blow y'all away. And I looked at these guys and I guess came from practice with them. I'm like, what's up with you? I mean, what y'all, you know, we just came out of practice. And they beat me with bats, whooped me down, whoop, and that was that. 3 months later, my whole mindset changed. But when I got God in my life, and he took over, I was able to forgive them. And I can look them in their face and they still walking in fear because they amazed, like, man, your legs was broken. We whooped you. Somebody said that you was dead. But I'm just saying that to you to let you know, once you let God in it, let the forgiveness, whoo, you gone.
Do we have a hand up over here? No? All right, so on the healing journey, I'm hearing relationship is big. Therapy, starting to accept yourself, and taking the courage to step into that, to look into that, to talk about it, to dive into the pain, and allow yourself to feel the pain
Yes.
and go through it. Powerful.
And understanding that it wasn't because of anything I did. That was the biggest thing.
Yes.
I had to learn that as an adult, like I didn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And then another element of human here is spirituality. Like knowing that we have access to this higher power inside of us, outside of us, all around us, that we can tap into to move forward, to get that courage, to have the forgiveness that we need in our journey. Powerful. Thank you.
The worst, this is the thought I would like to leave with. If you don't get anything about what I've said, this is the thought I want to leave with everybody. The worst moment, the worst thing that could ever transpire or happen in your life, the moment you think that I just want to die, because that was a point when I just said, when they was hitting me, I remember putting my hands up bets, and I was like, man, just let me die. Then I don't have to go through this. And then I remember just being blanking out, you know. But the worst moment of my life, and the worst moment of your life, is still the best moment of your life. And you hear what I'm saying? The worst moment of your life is still the best moment of your life. If you're still alive. So I can tell you right now, I'm still alive and I'm still able to move forward in the head and change and save lives. That's it. So that's that thought.
Inspiration, right? Like no matter what you've been through, you can still use your superpower to help to transform and contribute to our community. And healing and actualization. Yeah, did we have a... How long did it take Sir Taylor to forgive?
I came out of the hospital and I was still bitter and I was angry at the world. And so through that, I started experiencing other things that took me down that road, you know, that revenge, you know, like Malcolm, there's gotta be justice. And through that, right, I had a moment where the Creator set me down. And he isolated and put me in a place where, you know, I was just there and I was there by myself. And he was showing me that, man, if you don't take control of yourself, then somebody else is gonna control you. And you're gonna have to do what they say, when they say it. And it's, you know, that order came in. And when I had that, and I thought it was a punishment.
Were you incarcerated?
Yes, sir. You know, so during that point, when I came out, I was clear, crystal clear, you know.
How old were you?
That was hitting me at like 20, 22, 23, 24.
Probably took 10 years.
I'll say it took like 5. Yeah, about 5 years straight. I'm just
5. I'm just trying to see really more what I'm thinking is time. It's time with everybody as far as healing and forgiving.
But see, here, this is time and healing, but then we can also be a guide for them and just tell them, man, the outcome of this is going to be this. You know what I'm saying? And then if we can just intervene, because if I had somebody to intervene in there real quick and told me, well, that ain't the route we want to go, because this is going to be a consistent ongoing self-destruction. You destroy them, we're gonna destroy you, and it's gonna go back and back. And if you start focusing on you, then you're gonna be able to do the things that you were placed here to do, and other people are gonna grow from that. Because I know what you're saying, it's that bitterness, that feel like, because then at the same token, me and my wife, we just was out there visiting my brother. You know, my brother was my role model. He was that. But where he led me down and the things he did, when I look back, all of them was negative. And my mother kept telling me, she kept saying this to me, she kept saying, your brother gonna be in two places. He's gonna be in jail or dead. And I'd be like, man, but you don't know how to build and love him. You sitting up here saying that. They honor him. But you saying this in house, but when we walk out there, they honor him. And she didn't get it. And then until I had to run around the corner one day, and they was like, man, they shot your brother. And all the guys that was with him, why y'all around here talking about they just shot your brother? I run around the corner, my brother laying there in a puddle of blood. Well, everybody that claimed to be with this wasn't even there with him. You know, but then it hits you later on. Everything that your parent be saying, she was right. My mother ain't no psychic, but she said it. She kept saying it over and over. You think your brother doing something big? He gonna end up in jail or dead. And nobody came to help her out at the funeral. My mother sold stuff, and she was sitting up there she was begging for money. Everybody who claimed there was this and that, nobody showed up. And that's my reality, and this is the truth. And therefore, that's why I bagged up and I departed from all that. Like, nah, it's a facade, it ain't real. And when I was, and anybody who ever been incarcerated, you know how many guys come visit you. How many people putting money on your books. Man, you know who did it for me? My mama. Everybody that was clicked in who ran around with me, ain't nobody was there, man. That's my reality. And for the record, I'm gonna let you know this, man. My wife out there. Do I ever tell anybody I was incarcerated? Did I graduate from college? I came back and I graduated from college too, got my degree too. So I didn't play no games, I'm living this.
Look at his shirt, example setter. So again, no matter what has happened to you, you can overcome. Awesome, let's give him a hand.
Evelyn happens to be the wonderful clinical director at I Am Able. And we are excited about the gifts she brings. I'm telling you an inside secret that I found out about her. She's a child prodigy. Really, for real, for real. She is also a nerd. She loves learning. She is a lifelong learner, and she is a multitasker. She will be a wife, be a mother, be a student, be a clinical director, help write grants, help me manage the agency, take care of stuff when I'm going out of the country, and you name it. And she does them all well. How about that? Now, I'm just giving you real talk. I mean, she does it all well. And she's also an author, writing her first book. And she's doing all this all at the same time. She just finished her MBA a couple of weeks ago, graduated on May 5th. I'm serious. And she does all of this stuff well, and she still smiles. She's one of those people who be like, what you smiling for now? But I'm really excited. I prayed and asked God to give me a clinical director that I could trust. Give me a clinical director that would have the heart of the community and will carry my vision, help me to carry the vision to make ABLE a multi-million/billion-dollar agency, and to make sure that ABLE could live beyond our years and be taken to other varying communities. And she came in the door and said, I just want to help you do what you're envisioning. I had never heard anybody say that to me before. And the wonderful and interesting part is since that day, the majority of the other people that have come in and been hired have literally said the exact same words that she said to me. that we just want to help the vision live. They didn't come to make money necessarily because they're going to make money because God is going to make sure of that. But their vision was not to just come in and make money, but to come in and really restore what it meant to be a servant leader. And under her leadership, we have 2 new programs that have just opened up at Able. She's only been here a year. And so now we have a new parenting component, and we have a program that's dealing with folk who have DUIs. Oh, and a third component. What's the other one? Domestic violence. So we have 3 new programs that have come into fruition under her leadership and our clinical team, which is off the chart. And so we are so thankful, and we are excited because she is a shaker and a mover. She is so much like me in many ways that it scares me, but I'm not a nerd. That's the only difference. I ain't no nerd. I'm not. Some people think I'm a nerd, but I'm not. But I do love learning. I am a lifelong learner. And so you're going to be privileged to have the opportunity to see the EJC at work. Come on, baby, do your thing.
Thank you, Dr. Vessel. You're welcome. Hello, everybody. Today has been a wonderful day, right? And so I just have to let you all know that I joined the agency in 2017, and I was introduced to I Am Able through the trauma conference. And I tell people that all the time because it was such a wonderful experience. And it just made me more excited, more passionate about the work that ABLE does and what I hoped my contribution would be to the agency. So I hope you guys have definitely enjoyed yourself today. I would make the assumption that many of you are feeling full like me with the information and everything that we've just shared. And honestly, we may need a day of self-care or at least a couple hours to kind of finish dealing with some of the things that we've talked about today, okay? So I know it's the end of the day. I know we're wrapping up, okay, but I need you guys to just keep your energy with me, and you're gonna help me out for the rest of this presentation, okay? So I'm gonna introduce you all to somebody. You said, don't do it. This is Miss Coco, okay? That's one of my nicknames. So whenever I hold up Miss Coco, I want everybody to say, put on the mask, okay? So we're gonna practice, and I wanna hear you all be enthusiastic, and we're really trying to let people know to put on the mask, okay? So we're gonna do one for the practice round. Put on the mask. Very good, thank you. And so it'll make sense. Isn't she lovely? It'll make sense in just a moment, okay? So Dr. Vessel, she shared with you guys many of the things that I do, on the day-to-day. And so this concept of radical self-care is really important, and it's a journey that I'm continuously on, okay? So I'm not coming to you right now and claiming to have this part all figured out, but I am coming today to share with you the importance and to encourage you to make a plan for yourself. So one of the things that she didn't mention is that I'm an educator, and so I teach in the School of Social Work at Dominican University, also Northeastern Illinois University. And so I've been teaching about self-care, resilient practitioners for quite a while. And we know that self-care has kind of become a buzzword. So we see it everywhere, right? So typically, just a little thing about me, I don't jump on the bandwagons, I try to avoid it. So when Scandal first came out, for example, I didn't watch it until like the second or third, or like season, or Game of Thrones. It took me a while to kind of get on. haven't tried keto, you know, and I have a love-hate relationship with Beyonce. Sometimes she's my girl, and sometimes she's not. But this concept of self-care and radical self-care is a bandwagon that I gotta jump on, you know, and it's something that I think for Black people is one of the best bandwagons that could ever come about, because we've been kind of indoctrinated to take care of everybody else and not ourselves. And so we don't pay attention as much to ourselves while we're being busy, you know, being the caregiver. Everybody doesn't have children. It's an important role to me, but it could be not your child. It could be your mom. It could be your grandmother, someone you're helping. It could be your neighbor. It could be your work. But we're busy attending to these things and not really paying attention to ourselves. And so it's like, why? Why do we do that? Why do we feel like we have to just keep going? Well, it kind of feels like society is telling us we have to. We have now people like with a badge of honor, you know, saying, rise and grind, you know, I'm working up and I'm grinding. And I really had to do some reflection. Right the day before I graduated, I thought about my journey and how going through the process of finishing up classes. So I'm taking 3 classes, I'm working. I'm actually not just a graduate student, I'm in preschool, I'm in 3rd grade, and I'm in 4th grade because we gotta do all the homework when the kids get home, okay? And so I really decided at that point, I can't subscribe to the grind anymore. I can't wear myself out because realistically, while I thought I was functioning during that last semester, I wasn't my best. I wasn't giving everything, all of me, because I wasn't taking care of myself. And so radical self-care, it goes a little bit beyond what we think about when we think of self-care. You know, sometimes we think of the bubble baths and the massages, or you need to get more sleep. You know, it's so much more than that. Radical self-care is making the decision to put yourself first, to prioritize your quality of life so then you can be your best self. So not just, you know, getting to sleep and all of those things. So why does, this is the part where we get a little interactive. Why does the idea of radical self-care sound so hard? Or does that sound hard to any of you? If I say to you, okay, you need to not go to your best friend's event because your back hurts and you can barely stand up. People will see it as selfishness. And self-care is not that. It's not being selfish. It's not being self-indulgent. It's more like self-preservation. Because you cannot be your best self. If it's your community, you cannot give. All of the work that we're doing, I think about our Here for Life, Free for Life program. And we are working with children that are the highest risk, okay? Our staff, they're the bomb, just in case y'all want to know. They're sprinkled around the room. They have to take care of themselves. And I worry about them, you know, sometimes because the work is heavy and they care so much about what they're doing. You have to be able to make yourself a priority. Okay, so we can't be afraid to look selfish. So, do you all know people who may be spread too thin, or they look like they're spread too thin? Yeah, could be you, right? Could be somebody you know. Or do you know somebody who, you know, they're worn out. And typically when you think about burnout, you associate it with work, but I feel like sometimes I just have a life burnout. It's just everything. So what would we tell somebody if they seem to be experiencing that? Oh, but listen, thank you, Dr. Bell. We care about this person, okay? So we really want to say it. I only heard about 3 people. But when we know somebody's in that condition, we want to tell them what? Put on the mask. Thank you. Put on the mask, okay? So we've talked a lot about today how systemic racism affects us in our daily life. And it affects everybody differently. Dr. Stovall mentioned it. It doesn't matter if we're educated. It doesn't matter what socioeconomic status. It doesn't matter where we live. We all experience these challenges based off of systemic racism. And so, it's easy for somebody to come say to you, okay, well, you need to take care of yourself. You need to do some radical self-care. You don't know what I have access to. You don't know if I feel like I have the time, and you just don't know my life. So that's hard to say, right? But even historically, things have been held from us. We haven't had the opportunity to do some of those even stereotypical self-care things that we think about. I can remember, like in college even, I went to U of I in Champaign, and I would hear some of the girls talk about how they just went to go get a massage. And at that point, I'd never gotten a massage before. And I remember thinking to myself, like, it must be nice. I grew up in Argyle Gardens. They didn't talk about massages in Argyle Gardens. And so we have to, I think it's more than just telling somebody. You have to go and practice self-care. When I teach about self-care and I talk about it with my students, I talk about values. Because it's one thing to say, let's go do this one activity. And I believe it's another thing to say, you value family. You value your health. So what are you doing to prioritize those things for yourself so you can be the best you? Because it's going to look different for everybody. Self-care isn't a prescription. So nobody can just say, do this, this, and this. You have to be attentive to what you are going through in your life moment by moment, because moment by moment, you may need different things. And so men, women, children, everybody kind of unpacks and deals with their challenges differently. But I want to share a story with you guys, and then we can really explore together how radical self-care could have played into this situation, okay? So as you all can see, I have, well, you may not know, but I have sister locks, and I really like my hair. I'm waiting to do the next color. And so my loctician invited me to be a part of a hair show. And so my husband is a firefighter in Maywood. He was on shift, and I needed to be able to take my children with me. So my children go. And she says, oh, this is great. They can be a part of the show, and, we're just going to have a nice, fine, fun time. So we go the first night. My kids are there. We're practicing, everybody getting their moves together, okay? So we're getting ready for Saturday. Saturday we go. We have our practice. It's time for us to leave. When we were leaving, there were 2 young ladies on the corner. You could see something was wrong. They're rushing, they're texting, they're doing something. My children and I and my husband were coming out. We're walking towards our car. The young ladies start walking towards the car with us as a young man is walking down the street angrily. So at first I'm thinking, this is a young man who washed my hair, and I'm about to greet him. This gentleman is walking fast with his hand behind his back. As he approaches, I realize he has a gun. And so I've been exposed to gun violence. I grew up in the Gardens. I live on the South Side. At this point, it's no code, so people just kind of do whatever they want to do. So just the fact that I was around a gun didn't particularly bother me, but this was the first time in my life that I'd ever been around a gun with my children. So at that point, it's a whole nother level of fear, because I'm thinking about self-preservation in a different way so I can make sure that my children are safe. And so my children, they were born in Champaign. They're pretty sheltered. They don't know what's going on until we say, get in the car. So there was a certain point that they understood that they weren't safe. He pulls out the gun. At this point, I'm standing like right next to him. And so my son is upset, my niece is crying, my 4-year-old is even saying, Mommy, he shouldn't have a gun, you know. So we get everybody in the car and we drive away. But everybody is traumatized. The kids are in tears. My niece was just crying uncontrollably to the point where I could barely understand what she was saying. And so we go home, we pray, we call my lactician, thank you, to make sure they were okay, because he actually did go in their house and shoot. He fired the gun went through the floor, but nobody was injured. But she was quite desensitized to the situation. When I called her to check on her and see how she was, it was just, hi, this is Matt. You know, she said her name like it was just an everyday thing. And so that made me even think about what she and her children experience on a daily basis and what they're doing to take care of themselves. So my children are traumatized, and they have to watch me and my husband deal with our trauma in a way to kind of figure out, is it appropriate how they are releasing their emotions about theirs? And so that brings me back to taking care of ourselves. How are we, or what are we teaching our children about taking care of themselves? We know that there's a syndrome called the Superwoman syndrome, right? So we have all the women walking around, you know, with the S on their chests, with their chests, the S on their chests. There we go. And we want to praise people for being independent, for holding it down. But when you think about why women feel like they have to be super women, that speaks to trauma that they've experienced. Trauma that the Black man has been removed from, you know, this state of being our leader, the provider for so many families, not all. And the idea that years ago, you know, we had to fight stereotypes about Black women being, you know, Jezebels, or, you know, that head patting, you know, ghetto woman. We have to be able to just, you know, keep it together at all times. We don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to have to depend on anybody. All of these things contribute to ways that we don't take care of ourselves. Even when you have, you know, self-medication for all genders. You know, people who shut down. So in a situation where you're presented with a trauma like that, what do we do to take care of ourselves? And then what are we teaching our children about how they're dealing, you know, with trauma? What do you all think?
Put on the mask.
That's right. That's one way for sure. So, the put on the mask, I'm your flight attendant. We've heard about the flight attendants who say, you know, welcome to flight 109, we're headed to Orlando. In the case of an emergency, make sure if the masks fall down, you put it on yourself first. So we hear that, but are we really processing that we have to take care of ourselves first? And you have to, the thing about radical self-care, you're really giving yourself permission to take control and responsibility of your quality of life. You have to be okay with saying, no, I can't, or I have to do this. And that's what separates it from, you know, the self-care. I don't want to say the regular self-care, because it's definitely it's a foundation to the radical self-care. but it's a difference. And so, how do you deal with not feeling guilty? How do you convince yourself that it's okay for you to take care of yourself? It's okay for you to go to your doctor's appointment and not miss it because you need to take your uncle. How much worth will you be to your uncle if you're not taking care of yourself? I have a friend, and she used to say to me, because I have a few invisible illnesses. One of them is fibromyalgia. And she'll say to me, Joy, your health is a gift to the ones you love. And so for a long time, I thought about that. And so when I have my moments of really trying to go hard with my self-care, I think about my children. You know, I have to be well for my children, or I really got to get myself together because I don't want to teach this semester and I'm not feeling well and my students see that I'm dragging. But the truth is, I need to take care of myself for me, and everybody else will benefit. And so I challenge you guys to think about your mask, okay? Your life support mask. Miss Coco, a little jazzy. But really, what do you need to do? And I want to give you guys just a few moments to kind of talk to your table. What do you need to do to prioritize yourself and make sure that you're well? I'll give you guys about 2 or 3 minutes. All right, everybody. So we're going to come back to group sharing. Questions? We're going to come back to group sharing. Did anybody have any aha moments or something that they were surprised that they thought about or felt during our discussion?
I had an awesome aha moment. First of all, thanks a lot. One of the biggest things that has been a detriment, so to speak, in me being in the field and helping is not adhering to self-care. And it has caused me some problems along the way. I remember and I love the spin that you put on it, radical self-care. That automatically raised my attention level even more. But I'll never forget, and this reminded me of that time when I went to this workshop, and we were picking out the workshops we wanted to go to, and one workshop it was titled Ethics. And so right away, for the people familiar with the field, I thought it was going to be about rules and regulations regarding the 2060 and things of that nature, right? And to my surprise, the workshop, it was talking about if you didn't do self-care, you were being unethical, and how important that it was. If you weren't taking care of yourself, how could you possibly have the best interests of that patient? You're sitting there, you're fatigued, doing an interview. The client is starting to ask you, are you okay, and things of that nature. So, I mean, I'm telling you, this was like heaven sent, this piece alone. So thank you. You lined it up well, but you put me in a whole nother state, radical self-care. I'm not just on the self-care piece now. I got to be radical with it because I want to survive. And if I truly, really want to be inspired into helping people, I got to put me first, and I got to take care of me. Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate you.
Anyone else want to share? So I want to ask you guys, what do you do if you feel like you don't have any time to take care of yourself? How do we make time? Put it on your schedule. Say no. Prioritize. And when you prioritize, what are you prioritizing? You're putting yourself in there too. You're putting yourself in there too. So, radical self-care, I believe, is the highest of the high-reaching fruit. Okay? It takes energy, you have to be intentional, and it is constant work, but you are worth it. Thank you.